Action.
What's going on, Bionics? It's Sirius again. Happy New Year. Happy 2012. I'm here with a fellow traveler. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce Bohiti to you guys. He was here before me. He may be here after me. Depends on how long this thing takes. But he shared a lot of information to make my Terran experience a lot better. And we want to talk to you guys today about 2012 and what it is and what it isn't. I'm gonna give the floor to him because, like I said, he's my predecessor.
Yeah, hello, Bionics, and I'd like to welcome all of you to the planet, because what you don't know is that you're not really who you think you are. And most of us don't come to the planet necessarily knowing that. I surely didn't. I had to come to my own awakening. So I expect that those of you who are watching or will hear about these conversations at some point, I hope, will get that this flesh thing, that's your spacesuit, and you need it to live on this planet. But you're really something else other than just bag of flesh and bones. So 2012, I mean, we're in it, right? I mean, this is now. This is the here and now. People have been talking about this for the last few years and wondering, oh, the end of the world is nigh, and the destruction and the end of life as we know it. I think people have a real hard problem understanding the truth when they see it in front of them. And so unless you come into this awakening and realize that you are something other than this flesh and bones, this spacesuit, it might be difficult for you to understand what it really is, what 2012 will really mean. And you might believe that the end of the world is going to happen, or maybe you'll just dismiss it and say, screw that. None of this is true. It's all fake. It's a bunch of poppycock. The reality is something's about to happen. It's happening. And whether it's December 21st, 2012, or the day after, or a few days before, this time that we're in right now is a time of shifting, transferring energy. An alignment will occur, and that energy will be focused on we beings of light. Now, we may not be as prepared for it as we would be if we had been paying attention for the last few thousand years and knew what these prophecies were about when the ancient Mayans transcribed them. But the reality is that what we do have, in spite of the fact that we don't have a lot of written information because some folk actually decided that they didn't want to have that information on the planet, we do have what we do have in this flesh to identify as signs for what is to come. The end of the world is not going to happen. The end of life as we know it is not going to happen. But the end of time as we know it is happening. Time is speeding up. We see the fact that you can even watch me talking to you in this way technologically is a sort of an advancement. It's, the whole bionics thing, right? So here we are saying to ourselves that time is always going to be the same as it always ever was, but time is not always as it ever was. Time is always changing, and we are about to shift into a real different era of time. Now, in spite of the fact that I know that I'm a traveler from a very different place than here, and I happen to be here in this life, in this time, for this time, I really do believe, as opposed to knowing, because I think we're going to have to really see this for ourselves, that time will suspend itself. That will be the great shift. When that happens, some of the things that we take for granted, like the ability to transmit signals through an internet, or through a telephone, or through the television, or whatever, will not exist. We won't need those devices anymore, because the true bionics will be present. Some of us aren't going to get it. Some of us are going to reject it. We're going to rebel. We're going to equate it with Satanism or the evil New World Order and Illuminati stuff. All of this pre-existed before any of that. So the real critical thing is for us to, in this time, to really understand who we are as light beings, and know that no, the planet is still going to be here. It's not going to disappear. It's not going to be hit and destroyed by an asteroid. And even if that does happen, life will be here. We will be here because we're not this flesh and bone stuff. So if the end of the world happens because of a great catastrophe, that doesn't mean that life is over, because this isn't life. This is what holds life. Life is something bigger than that. And so we shouldn't fear the end of time as we know it. We should actually embrace it. It will mean that we will be evolving as in a state of consciousness as life forms on this planet. And maybe we can actually shed this spacesuit and not have to wear it anymore. We know that there are folk out there who are already doing that. It doesn't take much research to figure out who those people are. Sometimes they actually come back to us, they talk to us, they visit us. We might call them angels, we might call them aliens, we might call them ghosts, but they exist all around us, right here, right now. Just because we can't see them doesn't mean that they're not here. And they know what we're trying to figure out now, that the end of times is not really the end of life, it's the end of time as we know it. And I'm really excited to be on the planet at this time, at the end of time, because so much is happening around us. Now, I must say that things like war, like the United States going to war with Iran, or having just ended a war with Iraq that should never have happened, or staying in Afghanistan, or any number of things that the West is doing that is not in the interest of peace, actually is in the interest of war. We can look at that and say, well, these are signs of the end of the world to come. A lot of right-wing Christian fundamentalists, and maybe not so right-wing Christian fundamentalists, will say, particularly, that this is the end of times. That's what they mean by the end of times. That these are the signs that are revealed in the prophecy, in Revelations, and in the Bible. That ain't true. Yes, these wars are happening. The problem is that we don't quite understand the impact that those wars are having on the planet and will have on the planet. And when the end of time as we know it occurs, and we continue to exist in a very different paradigm, in a very different sense of time, we could still screw things up because of the way we screwed up the habitat. That will make it harder for this spacesuit to exist on this planet. So we should be concerned. We shouldn't dismiss the wars that are happening or the leading up to wars that are happening, because it may mean nothing to our bodies that are really nothing in relationship to who we are, but it means everything to this habitat. So if we're expecting to live well beyond 2012, we have to have the habitat, and that means that we cannot allow the United States or any nation to wage wars the way they're waging wars, because people die and all kinds of things, bad things would happen to the body, but we'll come back. But what will we come back to? That's the real key. So don't worry about the end of time being at the end of this year, or the end of life being at the end of this year. But be very clear that what we do to this planet will affect us if and when we decide to come